Welcome everyone to today's deep dive. I am just so thrilled you are joining us today because we are rolling the tape on what might go down as one of the most structurally fascinating matches in recent Mannheim Academy Manaball history.
Oh, absolutely. It is a modern classic.
Right, close your eyes for a second. Imagine that roaring crowd, the transparent magical dome, and the sheer high-stakes tension of the regular season finale.
The energy in that building was just electric.
It really was. And we aren't just, reading off the box score for Game 18 today. We have the raw game tape, the advanced spatial stats, and the complete playbook breakdowns for this historic clash between the Crimson Tigers and the Golden Eagles.
The data on this one is just incredible to look at.
Yeah, so our mission for you today is to pause the tape, zoom in on the physics, the tactical geometry of this wild 6-4 shootout, and give you that live-action feel of how the Tigers systematically dismantled the fastest transition offense in the league.
It was a masterclass.
To help me break down the film, I'm joined by my co-host, who has been basically poring over the possession metrics all morning. It was a wild one on the tape, wasn't it?
It truly was. What's fascinating here is how this specific Game 18 matchup serves as the ultimate stress test for two completely opposing Manaball philosophies.
Yeah, it's night and day.
Exactly. On the home side, you have the Tigers. Their entire system is built on structured, relentless aggression and mathematical control of the airspace.
The control game, right.
Right. And then on the away side, you have the Eagles, who operate on pure, unadulterated speed, chaotic fast breaks, and an absolute refusal to let the game settle into a half-court rhythm.
They just want to run.
You are looking at a textbook example of a possession-heavy juggernaut trying to trap a highly volatile, lightning-fast object.
Okay, let's unpack this because for those of you who track the league,
Yeah.
you already know the standard 3D positional play.
Right, the basics.
Yeah, you know the dimensions of the Manheim Dome, 210 feet long, 95 feet wide, 30 feet high. You know how the flight bands operate to let players navigate the upper layer, the neutral plane, and the lower layer.
And we should quickly touch on the physics for those visualizing the field.
Please do.
It all comes down to mana gravity and the concept of orb drop.
Crucial stuff.
It really is. Objects above the semi-solid neutral plane naturally drift down, and objects below it drift up. Understanding that vertical spatial awareness is exactly why this sport is like four-dimensional hockey, and it's crucial to grasping how this specific game unfolded.
Exactly. Because what we're looking at today isn't the basics. It's how these two teams fundamentally broke the established meta. Look at the starting formations.
Oh, the formations tell the whole story.
Right. The Tigers roll out that wildly aggressive 3-2-1 formation. They field three centers simultaneously: Sydney Distancic, Liz Hadbucks, and Sarah Vanderbilt. Their identities basically control the entire field.
Yes, and against them, the Eagles run a 3-2.
Barely even pretending to play defense.
Not at all. Their strategies just overwhelm the opponent. They lean heavily on three strikers: Addie Lum, Mac Blackwood, and Wesley LeClaire. They just want to outrun everyone and dominate that upper layer.
So the stakes are massive here.
Yeah.
The Tigers are riding this huge wave of momentum at home, but the Eagles can turn any single turnover into a goal in a fraction of a second.
The tension before the opening faceoff was palpable.
So the whistle blows.
Yeah.
And we are immediately off to the races. The pacing of the opening minutes was just disjointed, frantic.
Neither team spent any time feeling the other out. The tracking data shows the Tigers immediately trying to establish their cycle in the neutral plane.
Right, using those three centers to dictate the tempo.
But the Eagles' 3-2 is designed to disrupt exactly that. By keeping three strikers hovering near the upper layer, they are constantly threatening a vertical breakout.
Forcing the Tigers to look over their shoulders constantly. And man, it led to fireworks immediately. Just minutes in, the Tigers swarmed the offensive zone.
And Distancic finds that space.
Yes. Distancic, who ended up with a massive three-point night, finds this microscopic pocket of space. She snaps a quick shot right past the Eagles' guardian, Blake Anderson. First blood. 1-0 Tigers.
But they didn't even have time to celebrate.
No. That's what stood out of the tape, the Eagles' response. The moment the orb dropped, striker Addie Lum just ignited.
Her transition speed is unmatched.
We know she uses pyromancy, but the way she utilized microbursts of thermal expansion to manipulate her mana boots and accelerate through the neutral plane was terrifying.
It really was. She shattered the Tigers' defensive alignment and tied it up 1-1 almost instantly.
It was the lure.
And that sequence perfectly encapsulates the Eagles' identity. They don't want sustained pressure. They want instant, high-leverage transitions.
Right.
By using pyromancy to rapidly shift her positional depth, Lum completely bypasses the Tiger's midfield trap. The Tigers defend horizontal passing lanes. Lum attacked them vertically.
Slicing from the lower layer up through the neutral plane at a speed that left Chad Griffith completely flat-footed, and the pace just refused to let up. Autumn Fallon restores the Tigers' lead, 2-1.
A beautiful sniper shot.
But then the Eagles respond again, and this is the play I really want to dissect. Natalie Matthews, the Eagles' lone defender, gets the orb deep in her own zone.
And she sees the vertical space.
Instead of feeding her strikers, she unloads this massive long drive shot straight from the defensive layer. It travels the length of the dome, banks, and goes in. 2-2 tie at the end of the first.
Incredible shot.
When I saw that on the broadcast tape, I thought, that is a ridiculously low percentage shot. Was that just a lucky bounce or a calculated read on Guardian Devin Grazio's positioning?
It was absolutely a calculated read, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains so much for the listener about this matchup. This 2-2 tie perfectly showcases the Tigers' constant attack pressure meeting the Eagles' chaotic fast break style.
The clash of styles in real time.
Exactly. When the Tigers push their three centers high, they leave vacant space in the lower defensive layers. Matthews recognized that the stabilization field of the neutral plane would naturally curve a high-velocity shot if caught at the exact right angle.
Because Grazio was positioned to defend a close-range dive shot.
Right. He wasn't tracking a cross-dome ballistic trajectory. It was brilliant spatial awareness from Matthews.
So they head into the second period tied at 2 apiece. And here's where it gets really interesting.
The true turning point of the game.
Usually the second period is where coaching adjustments slow things down. But instead, it turned into an absolute heavyweight prize fight. Sarah Vanderbilt threads a gorgeous passing sequence to Autumn Fallon for her second goal. 3-2 Tigers.
Star power on full display.
And then, right on cue, Eagle center Jack Jeffrey launches a transition pass up through the flight band. Addie Lum takes it in stride, buries it. 3-3 tie.
They just trade blows at full speed.
I have to ask, at this point in the tape, if you're the Tigers coach, aren't you sweating? Your methodical possession game is turning into a track meet against the fastest team in the league.
You might be sweating, but you aren't panicking. Because the Tigers had a tactical trump card waiting.
Oh, the collapse.
Yes. The Eagles rely on chaos, but the Tigers' response to that chaos was calculated, overwhelming force. This is where we see them execute the Crimson collapse.
I was watching the overhead positional data here, and suddenly it looked like the Tigers threw their structural discipline out the window.
It looks like pure madness at first glance.
All three centers, Hadbucks, Distance, and Vanderbilt, just abandoned the neutral plane trap and crashed the offensive zone simultaneously. Walk us through the specific plays happening there, because it clearly wasn't an accident.
Not at all. The Crimson collapse is a fascinating piece of tactical geometry. Remember those dome dimensions we talked about? By pushing all three centers and their two strikers into the offensive third and distributing them evenly across all vertical layers, the Tigers mathematically reduced the Eagles' viable passing lanes out of the zone by over 60%.
Suffocating them.
Exactly. The Eagles only play with one true defender in Matthews. When you collapse 5 offensive players into that space, the Eagles simply don't have the bodies to cover the angles. They get boxed in.
But wait, let me push back on that. Isn't a 5-man offensive collapse inherently reckless?
It carries a lot of risk, yes.
Because if the Eagles intercept just one pass, they have Addie Lum and Mac Blackwood hovering. It's essentially a 3-on-1 sprint the other way against Chad Griffith. That feels like a suicide mission.
In a vacuum, yes. But the possession metrics show the Tigers deployed it specifically when the Eagle strikers were visibly fatigued and caught low in the defensive zone trying to help Matthews.
Timing is everything.
The Tigers banked on the philosophy that the best defense against a lightning-fast transition team is simply never letting them have the orb in the first place.
And the tape proves you right. The deadlock finally breaks, precisely because of that suffocation. Liz Hadbucks finds a pocket of space near the goal ring, fires a laser. 4-3 Tigers.
A perfectly precise shot.
Then the Eagles try to force a desperation breakout pass. They turn it right over in that collapsed airspace, and Ty Clyde blasts a shot past Anderson. Just like that, it's 5-3 Tigers at the end of the second. The momentum swing was violent.
It was, and that late turnover highlights the fatal flaw in the Eagles' strategy. When you play with minimal defensive structure, you are effectively leaving your guardian on an island against sustained pressure.
Let's talk about Blake Anderson for a second.
Yes, look at his numbers. Anderson faced a staggering 31 shots in this game.
31.
In Manaball, If your Guardian is facing 31 shots, your defensive structure hasn't just bent, it has completely snapped. You cannot expect a Guardian to bail you out over and over against a full five-player offensive collapse.
That is such a crucial point. You look at the box score, you see Anderson gave up 6 goals, and you think, rough night for the goalie. But watching the tape, Anderson was under an absolute siege.
Shots from 3 different altitudes simultaneously.
Contrast that with Devin Grazzo on the Tigers' side. Grazzo faced 28 shots, but because of the Tigers' possession dominance, the quality and angle of those shots were far more predictable.
Precisely. Grazzo was insulated by a team that forced low-percentage, high-angle shots from the perimeter.
So we roll the tape into the third period. The score is 5-3 Crimson Tigers. A 2-goal deficit is usually a mountain to climb, but the tension in the arena was rising because with the Eagles' speed, it's really just 2 good shifts.
They are never truly out of game.
The Eagles come out of the break looking absolutely desperate, and Mac Blackwood finally delivers for them. We need to talk about Blackwood's electromancy here because he just bullied his way right through the neutral plane.
He did. Electromancy in Manaball isn't just about speed, it's about generating kinetic force.
A battering ram.
Exactly. He used an electromagnetic pulse against the stabilization field to create a physical battering ram. He drove right through the Tigers' defensive shell and powered his way to a massive scoring chance. 5-4.
It completely shifted the psychological momentum of the arena. You could practically feel the panic creaking into the Tigers' bench on the film.
The Eagles smelled blood.
They started throwing the kitchen sink at the net, abandoning defensive structure, launching those signature Eagle dive shots from the upper layer, spiking the orb down at the goal ring. This is where Devin Grazzo put on an absolute masterclass.
He really did. This is what clutch defense and elite goaltending looks like in a three-dimensional space.
His composure was unreal.
Just look at the stats. 24 saves on 28 shots, an .857 save percentage.
In standard ice hockey, that might get you benched.
But in Manaball, against an offense executing hyperspeed vertical dive shots, that is a legendary Vezina-caliber performance. Those frantic diving saves preserved the narrow lead.
The spatial awareness required to track those plays is mind-bending. I watched one sequence where Grasso launched himself into the upper layer to deflect a shot, killed his boot's levitation to free fall down to the neutral plane, and kicked away a rebound. Athletic perfection.
But he didn't survive that third period siege alone.
Not at all. We have to give a massive shout-out to the enforcer, Tigers defender Chad Griffith. The stats show 4 hits and 3 blocked shots, but the raw numbers don't do justice to his physical presence on the tape.
Griffith completely swung the momentum and disrupted the Eagles' late push. He single-handedly dismantled their transition rhythm in the final 10 minutes.
By exploiting the physics of the lower layer.
Exactly. When a player dives into the lower layer, mana-gravity naturally causes them to drift upward back toward the neutral plane.
Right.
Griffith recognized the Eagles were using that upward drift to accelerate their fast breaks, so he positioned himself right at the boundary line and initiated hard physical contact just as the Eagles were transitioning upward.
It was brutal to watch. Every time an Eagle tried to pop up through the floor of the neutral plane with the orb, Griffith was there to meet them with a heavy shoulder check into the transparent arcane barriers.
You simply cannot execute a high-speed finesse passing game when you are getting physically grounded every time you touch the orb.
Griffith's physical toll completely broke their timing.
It's the classic antidote to a finesse speed team. You disrupt their flight paths. By imposing that physicality, Griffith forced the Eagles to hesitate. And a half second of hesitation is all the Tigers need to reset their positional trap.
Which brings us to the final defining play of the match. Maximum broadcast energy here. The clock is bleeding out. The Eagles are pressing impossibly high, desperately trying to find that tying goal.
And they make one critical mistake.
They turn it over in the neutral plane, while all 3 strikers are caught deep in the offensive zone. Sydney Distancic scoops the loose orb. She doesn't panic.
Cool as ice.
She looks up, sees Sarah Vanderbilt accelerating the other way. Distancic threads this beautiful arcing pass that perfectly calculates the orb drop. Vanderbilt catches it cleanly, maneuvers past an exhausted Natalie Matthews, and buries the dagger. 6-4, Crimson Tigers. The horn sounds. Tigers win.
A clinical finish.
What a way to end the regular season.
Capitalizing on the Eagles' overextension with a perfectly weighted pass that utilized the arena's natural physics, it was the exact exclamation point the Tigers needed to validate their entire strategic philosophy.
So what does this all mean when we step back from the tape? For you, the listener, watching these trends week to week, The big recap is how the Crimson Tigers prove that balanced depth and controlling all three vertical layers can outlast sheer speed.
Depth was the difference maker.
They got goals from Fallon, Hadbucks, Clyde, and Vanderbilt. When you have four different players finding the back of the net, your attack becomes incredibly difficult to scout.
Absolutely.
They used the Crimson collapse to completely suffocate the Eagles, and when they needed to weather the storm, they had Grazzo's elite tracking and Griffith's punishing physicality.
And this raises an important question regarding the current meta of league roster construction. The Eagles played a thrilling game, no doubt.
Highlight reels all season.
But this tape exposes a severe vulnerability. Their lack of positional discipline in the neutral plane ultimately left Blake Anderson exposed, facing an unsustainable barrage of shots.
It's a harsh lesson in risk versus reward.
Exactly. When you build an entire roster around speed and offensive chaos, you might score in 3 seconds flat, but you also bleed high-danger chances the other way. Against the structural discipline of the Tigers, that lack of a defensive foundation was their undoing.
You can't outrun bad geometry for a full 3 periods.
You really can't.
It's why this Game 18 tape is going to be mandatory viewing in film rooms across the league. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something to really chew on regarding the mechanics of the sport itself.
Oh, this is a great point.
We spent a lot of time today breaking down how players use magic to fight against mana gravity, burning energy to hover or dive. We know orb drop dictates that the game naturally wants to flow back to the neutral plane.
Right.
So far, teams rely on immense physical speed or magical passing traps. But theoretically, could a coaching staff build an entire defensive system around mastering the pure physics of orb drop?
Just playing the gravity.
Exactly. Instead of burning energy chasing the opponent through the vertical layers, could a team win a championship by simply anchoring their players exactly where the stabilization field dictates the orb will naturally fall? How much of modern Manaball relies on outworking the magic, and how much untapped potential is there in simply letting the dome's physics do the work for you?
That is a phenomenal tactical question to explore. If a team could mathematically map the orb drop trajectories and simply play zone defense at those exact coordinates, they could conserve massive amounts of magical energy while forcing the other team to exhaust themselves.
It might just be the next great evolutionary leap in Manaball strategy.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Right. I will definitely be watching the spatial tracking data for that next season. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Game 18 film. We broke down the geometry, we analyzed the possession metrics, and hopefully you've got a whole new perspective on the tactical war that just took place under the Manheim Dome.
It was a pleasure breaking it down.
Keep analyzing the tape, keep questioning the meta, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.